Another thing when you're considering a photographer or really any wedding professional is the cost, right? There's going to be a dollar amount associated with that. And just as with every other vendor or professional, there's a range, right? You have...
Very much so.
There's here to here and everybody in between, and you have to make a choice,
somewhere on the spectrum.
Right. That you have no choice of. They will be on the spectrum. Just where on the spectrum?
Yes.
So a little bit, can you talk to us a little bit about, about pricing, about, you have photographers who will say they'll do a 10-hour day for this price, and some people will do a 4-hour day for this price, or different types of things. So how are pricing packages standardly put together by photographers, and then kind of how to kind of compare those, because it really is apples and oranges sometimes.
Oh yes, very much so. Well, pricing is one of those things that it should be the last thing you consider, but you should always consider it. Just flat out, always consider it. And there tends to be 3 tiers of pricing structures. So you're gonna get your what I'll call newbies, or your hobbyists, your people who are not in this professionally, are gonna be somewhere around that $1,000 under for a 6-hour day. And that's pretty standard for that kind of knowledge, or that kind of, I only do 5 weddings a year and this is my hobby. So that $1,000 and under section for 4 to 6 hours is pretty standard for that. So then you get your mid-level people, and I put us fully into a mid-level. We try and have something for that lower end, but we try and have something for the higher end too. And we do by hour, and you're going to get pretty commonly by hour in that middle section. So you're looking anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000. So somewhere in there, you're going to be middle tier. You're going to get someone who has years of experience doing this, who's got more knowledge of how a wedding day works and can help you move things along. So if you're looking for someone with that more experience, definitely you're looking somewhere between $1,000 and $5,000. Once you get above $5,000, that's when you're getting into specialists and the high-end people. So the people who are building a package that is made for all day, multiple photographers, specialty photography, you're looking $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 for a photographer. We don't have too many of those here in Oregon, but they do exist. And I'm pretty sure there's got to be at least one here in Salem. I don't know who that is, but I'm sure there's one, because there was always one. But that's kind of the 3 tiers in terms of price, where you're going to get those differences between just the knowledge that people have and where they put themselves in the spectrum of I'm a specialist to I'm a hobbyist. But then there's also the number of hours. So I talk to my clients all the time about the number of hours they need, and that's what most photographers base their packaging on, is the number of hours. So most weddings can be covered in 4 to 6 hours. Just flat out, most weddings can be covered in 4 to 6 hours. Whether you have 1 photographer or 2, that still stays true. When people are offering those packages for 8, 10, 12-hour days, it's because they're looking for specific things that usually happen very far apart in the day. So they want from the moment you get up until the moment you get on a plane or you get to your hotel room, sometimes the moment you leave the morning after. I've seen those too. So the number of hours that you want and or need can vary very much across that entire spectrum. I know of photographers here in Salem alone that'll do an 8-hour day for $1,000, and I know photographers that you won't get them out of bed for under 5 for a full day. So it varies widely, but you want to look at number of hours for what will cover your wedding day, and that's where your timeline comes in very much, and your must-have list. So when I talk to clients about a must-have list, I say for every single one of the photos that you put on that list, I have to have this photo. Plan 5 minutes. That it's going to take us 5 minutes to get that one photo. Because inevitably somebody goes wandering off and we got to go chase somebody down, or grandma had to go use the bathroom and it takes her a few minutes to get there. So It takes
the bar
a while.
opened and the groomsmen were more interested in that. Yeah.
So sometimes, you'll move through some fast and some will slow you down. So if you average out 5 minutes, that'll give you an idea of how many hours you need to cover those must-haves. So that's one way to look at it. Your timeline is another way, especially if you have a planner who has got a great timeline of, okay, at this time we're doing this, at this time we're doing this, we've got a 5-minute window and that's it, here we go, boom, boom, boom. You're gonna have a really good idea of, okay, well, I need 15 minutes of getting ready because we get some good shots of all of the last minute pieces, and then I need right till we leave, and that covers this many hours, that's the coverage I need. Or I don't need people dancing and eating, and so I only need for the first hour of the reception because we're loading everything at the beginning of the reception, like the cake cutting and the bouquet toss and the garter toss if you're doing that, and all of those, the first dances and everything.
Right.
So your timeline will also kind of dictate how many hours you need to cover all the things that you want, and that helps you with determining where you fall in that pricing spectrum.
And I think that's a good way to think about it too. You don't need, unless you really want it, you don't necessarily need the photographer there from the time you sit down in the makeup chair, right? You want to catch just kind of the end of that, and then getting in the dress and doing, or the groomsman and the groom are together and they are, they're getting dressed. Nobody's going to really want a photographer in there taking pictures of them when they're all in their underwear. Right? It's not really one of those things. It's going to be at the end where, maybe someone's helping you zip your dress, or you're being helped with your tie, and, those kind of those emotional moments. And then through, making sure you capture all of those. Mm-hmm. So that's a good way to think about that too. Okay, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's what we need.
Well, and your photographer style will also dictate the kind of time they need. So photojournalistic or lifestyle photographers will always want more time, because your moments happen at a moment, and they don't know when during the day that moment's going to happen. The first time your mom sees you on your wedding day, that could be 3 hours before you get ready, or that could be right before the wedding ceremony happens. He doesn't know, she doesn't know, so they're going to want as much time as they can get. So lifestyle photographers or photojournalistic photographers will tend to be those bigger packages, and it costs a bit more money because they know they're going to need that extra time to get those moments, because they just don't know realistically when they'll happen during the day. Whereas a traditional photographer who is creating those moments doesn't need as much time, because they're creating the moments. They're making sure that those moments happen in your time that you've already booked. So that's another thing to think of, which is why style is like the number one. You look at that first. Personality is number two, and then you consider pricing, because you can have them fall anywhere in those three spectrums, and you're going to get anywhere in that spectrum for how many hours that they'll cover for that amount of money. So it breaks down quite convolutedly, really. It can be confusing for sure.
Yes. So if you have any questions about any of the videos you've watched, please feel free to reach out at photosbyorion.com. Also available on Facebook, Instagram. Email is contact@photosbyorion.com, or the good old telephone, which is 503-385-1435.